AboutTruckDriving.com presents Trucking Life, an entertaining yet informative guide to becoming and being a truck driver by Todd McCann, read for you by the author.
Chapter 1. What is it with truck driving? If you're reading this right now, it's likely because of one of two reasons. Either you're considering becoming a professional truck driver, or you just have a healthy curiosity about what's involved in being a trucker. Or perhaps your in-laws are over for a visit, you've faked food poisoning, and you've locked yourself in the bathroom with your spiffy new mobile device to avoid the drool-inspiring details of every ache and pain they've experienced since their last visit. Somehow, in the midst of your fake moans and groans, you've accidentally ordered my book. Thank you for your order. All sales are final. Only kidding. Jeez, I guess if I was hiding out in the crapper, I'd be edgy too. If you are hiding from the in-laws, at least find something more interesting than this book. Like that super informative website with a pictorial history of Cindy Crawford, or Brad Pitt to be politically correct, that you stumbled across while searching for that educational website on Gothic architecture in Europe. Yeah, that's the ticket. On the note of political correctness, I'm not very good at it, so please bear with me. Ladies, you'll have to forgive me if my writing sometimes seems to be aimed at men. It's not intentional, but since the vast majority of truckers are men, I'm bound to goof every now and then. Now that my disclaimer for all those annoying political correctness Nazis is out of the way, let's move on. If you purposely ordered this book, you're not alone in your curiosity about the trucking world. How many miles do you drive each day? Where do you take showers? Do you have to pay for fuel? These and many other questions pop up after people discover my wife and I are truck drivers. These people might be construction workers, homemakers, or telemarketers, so I have to wonder, why should they care about trucking? Now, I'm not complaining, and I certainly don't mind answering their questions. I just wonder how anyone could possibly want to know such mundane details about being a trucker. After all, I don't ask them how to frame a wall or what's the best way to annoy someone while they're eating dinner. Why should I? I certainly don't care, but apparently they do. Maybe you do too. You must have some sort of interest in trucking because you forked over the dough for this book. Perhaps it's more than just a passing interest. Maybe you've always wondered what it would be like to drive a truck for a living. Maybe you've had this strange fascination with trucks ever since your youth, when you first got a trucker to blow his horn by vigorously pumping your arm up and down. Whatever your reason for asking, the fact remains that many people do ask me about this boring stuff. So that got me thinking, which really hurt my brain. Why do some people have an interest in trucking? Here's my take. People are interested in the unfamiliar. That's why we watch the Discovery Channel. Heck, it's not every day you get to see hyenas humping. Likewise, a trucker's lifestyle is something that you wouldn't be familiar with because you don't see or hear about it every day. Unlike most other professions, trucking isn't just a job, it's a lifestyle all its own. No one wants to know the details of a toll booth attendant's day because, quite frankly, they're a freaking toll booth attendant. They stand in a booth making the exact same change all day, then go home and don an oxygen mask to keep from passing out from all the exhaust fumes. They get paid a set salary every Friday. Yeah, I know, Rama. A factory worker builds widgets all day and goes home to have a couple of beers and watch American Idol. He or she gets paid by the hour. Ho hum. No wonder nobody asks them about their jobs. Their job is just like everyone else's. On the other hand, as a trucker, I may get up early one day and battle city traffic until evening. The next day, I wake up in the afternoon and drive deserted roads all night to deliver a load in the middle of freaking nowhere. Not you. You fight rush hour to and from work every day. Every load I haul gets picked up in a different city, and I rarely know where I'm heading next. You pass the same 7-Eleven and park in the same parking lot at work every day, possibly even the exact same parking spot. I'm away from home for long periods of time. You get to be with the family and or friends every night. When I'm not driving down the road, my home away from home is either the driver's lounge in a truck stop or a truck cab the size of a half bathroom. You've got a deck with a grill and a familiar toilet seat, you lucky dog. I've seen all 48 states in the continental US of A and parts of Canada. You crossed the state line to pick up discount beer and cigarettes once. I get paid by the mile or by a percentage of the load. You get paid by the hour or by salary. I use words like chicken coop and plain white wrapper at work. You know what synergy means, and I don't care. I guess when you look at it like that, it's easy to see why people have an interest in the life of a trucker. It's just so foreign to them compared to their everyday life. To us, the trucking life may seem quite dull because we live it every day. Quite frankly, driving for 11 hours every day can be extremely boring, especially if you don't find ways to keep it interesting. We'll be discussing ways to stay entertained in Chapter 10. Whatever the reasons for a person's curiosity about trucking, there is absolutely no denying that it exists. That led to more deep thoughts. And a migraine. Man, I've got to quit thinking so much. So how could I help all you curious folks out there? Maybe what was needed was a practical guide that could answer all those little questions that non-truckers seem to want to know about a trucker's life on the road. Sure, it might satisfy the person with a passing interest, but even better, it would give much needed information to those who are looking to pursue a job as a professional truck driver. I certainly wish I had known the facts before I made the leap. Under the circumstances, I don't think it would change my mind, but still, any uninformed decision is potentially unwise.
Will I like truck driving?
No one can answer that question for you. That's for you and only you to decide. It doesn't matter if you're a white-collar worker looking for an escape from backstabbing office politics, or a blue-collar laborer looking for better pay than your local factory or fast food joint. Truck driving may fit the bill, then again, it may not. I can't stress enough that this is a decision only you can make, and it should only be done by getting the hard facts about what you're about to get into. Just because your cousin may love being a trucker doesn't mean that you'll share his passion about it. I mean, you don't share his weird goat fetish, do you? Any career change can be an expensive proposition, although there are ways to get into trucking without any upfront cash. Don't you owe it to yourself to get the truth? This book is your first step. Exactly how can this book help you decide if trucking is right for you? This book is designed to help outsiders and new truckers understand the world of trucking. If you do decide to pursue a career as a truck driver, you might also be interested in other upcoming books that will help you with other aspects of trucking. The next book is entitled How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. This book will tell you all the right questions to ask when you're job hunting and why it's important to ask these questions in the first place. It also includes a printable checklist form in the back so you won't forget to ask anything when you call a potential employer.
Now why would I need such a guide?
Well, many times a disgruntled trucker feels like the trucking company has lied to them, when in reality, they just forgot to ask a particular question about the thing that they're now throwing a hissy fit about. I know because I've done it numerous times. Nearly every time I didn't like something about a particular company I had hired on with, it was due to something that I had forgotten to ask about. That's why I decided to make this list of questions in the first place, so I wouldn't forget to ask that one vital question that would keep me from lobbing Molotov cocktails into the recruiting department's office. Trial and error is the worst way to find a job, so don't do it. For more information on how to find a great truck driving job, go to abouttruckdriving.com and click on the books link in the navigation bar. Now back to the book you're listening to now, which is designed to give you the unbiased facts about what you'll face as a new trucker. Believe me when I say that the unbiased part of that is what's so hard to find. We'll have more on that subject in the next chapter. This book is interspersed with some specific male and female-oriented insights, some inevitable trucker stories, and some unrelated blabber that I consider humor. The information in this book will help you make an informed decision as to whether your experience in a trucking career will be as yummy as chocolate and peanut butter, or as puke-worthy as apple pie with a mustard glaze. There's absolutely no sense in wasting your time, effort, and money trying out a different career when you could possibly figure it out just by listening to a short book. This book is an easy read that'll feel more like a face-to-face conversation than a textbook. To make things even easier to comprehend, I'll also try to refrain from using a lot of trucker jargon that you may not understand. 10-4? Oh, come on now. Even your grandma knows what that means. Now, one thing this book won't do is recommend any particular trucking companies.
Why not?
Because the things I love about a particular company could be the very things you end up hating after you blindly take my recommendation. Then you might get peeved at me, don a hockey mask, and hunt me down with a big freaking machete. Frankly, I rather enjoy the use of all my limbs. Only you can know what kind of company will suit you best. Here's a real-life example of that. If there's one thing truckers are known for, other than body odor and foul language, it's telling trucker stories. Here's the first of many. The evil overlord, the wife and ex-co-driver, and I hired on with a trucking company based in Florida. The first day of orientation, we gave each other that uh-oh look out of the corner of our eye when the class instructor began explaining an unfamiliar company policy. It seemed that on high-value loads, such as televisions or other electronics, we'd be required to travel 300 miles from the shipper before we were allowed to stop. They went on to explain that people familiar with the shipper commit many of those thefts. The thieves simply follow you when you leave. When you stop for fuel, food, or whatever, they wait until you go inside, and then they nab your truck. Research had shown that thieves would give up after you drive 200 to 300 miles without stopping. I guess that makes sense, but that one policy was unlike anything we had previously dealt with. We had a very bad feeling about it, but because we had come all the way from Missouri, we decided to give it a go anyway. In that orientation class, we sat alongside another couple that also expressed some concerns about that policy. We even discussed it with them during our breaks. To make a long story short, we only drove for that company for 10 months. I'm actually surprised we lasted that long. We tried to stick it out, but we just couldn't get past that one awful policy. 2 years later, I was walking through a truck stop lounge when one of the magazines in the newsstand caught my eye. Guess who was on the cover? I'll be danged if it wasn't that same couple we sat beside at orientation, and they still worked there. Furthermore, they had been chosen by that very carrier to represent them in the feature article inside. They were singing the praises of the very company that we had both been uneasy about during orientation. I'm glad they were enjoying it. We sure hadn't. This story is a perfect example of why one company isn't right for everyone. They overlooked that one little policy, but it bugged us enough to move on down the road, so to speak. Had it been something else, our roles may have been reversed. And by the way, this particular security policy has grown in popularity over the years, and we've grown accustomed to it since then. So don't let this kind of policy scare you like it did us. Just as I won't be recommending any trucking companies, I also won't be glamorizing a trucking career to influence you. I have no reason to. You'll see why in a bit. What I will do is give you the truth about the trucking industry so you can make an informed decision for yourself. Driving a truck isn't for everyone, and it'll certainly take some getting used to. It's also something you don't want to dive into without careful consideration, so don't quit your day job just yet. As I said before, changing careers can be an expensive undertaking. There's the lost wages, lost health insurance, or highway robbery COBRA cost to continue it, the cost of education for your new career, and your lack of efficiency in a new job, just to name a few. And let's not forget the never-ending nagging from your spouse about not bringing home the bacon until your first paycheck from the new job kicks in. We need to discuss in more detail what driving a truck is about before you possibly commit career suicide. You need to know some of the pitfalls before you eagerly jump off the high dive, only to realize that someone neglected to put water in the stinking pool. Here are just some of the questions we need to answer before you can make an informed decision. How much money can you make? Who makes a good trucker? What's it like to drive a big rig? Can you be away from home? How will you handle downtime on the road? How does your home time work? Can you handle the long driving hours? What's it like to sleep in the truck? What about health issues? What about personal hygiene? How are women truckers treated? What are the job qualifications? Will I have job security? These are just some of the questions that'll be answered for you. We'll tackle these one at a time. If you hear about all these things and decide truck driving may work for you, you'll need to know the process of becoming a truck driver. So the end of the book will cover choosing and attending a driving school, finding a great job, going to orientation class, hitting the road with a trainer, and a day in the life of a trucker. Before we go any further, why don't we go ahead and get my credentials out of the way? That way you'll know I'm not some pencil-pushing desk jockey blowhard. Wow, that's a lot of hyphenated words.